I'm here with Danial Reed, and excited to introduce you. Danielle just completed the Next Level 4 program with Ken and myself, and we have had a long history with EC Barton, the company that she works with, and have a great relationship and deep respect for all of the members of their leadership team. And they've participated with us in various capacities. Some of them have been through Next Level and the work that we've had a chance to do with them. So that's how Danielle came to us, how we got a chance to get to know Danielle. And it has been an absolute delight to learn more about her and the work that she's involved with and her contribution to the company. So I'm going to let Danielle tell us more about EC Barton, your relationship there, kind of your tenure and experience, and what you've been doing and focused on of late.
Sure. So I have been with EC Barton Company for 5 years here in a few months. My current role is Vice President of Marketing for EC Barton Company. So I oversee a team of approximately 6 people. We do all of the marketing and communications for our 3 retail building material brands. And so that's made up of Home Outlet, Barton's, which is our flagship brand, and Seconds and Surplus. So we've been headquartered in Jonesboro, Arkansas since 1885.
Wow. And yeah, they've been around for a while. You weren't there then, I guess, not part of the founding team.
Not part of the founding team, but a pretty long tenure there.
That's an amazing run. What was the third brand you mentioned? You said Home Outlet, Barton's, and then the third one was what?
Seconds and Surplus. So that's a brand in Dallas
Gotcha.
that we acquired last year.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. I wasn't familiar with that one, but I recognize the other two. I do remember that acquisition though. So what is it like in the marketing world right now for you in your space, trying to raise the banner and advance the message and mission publicly of EC Barton?
Well, I'll tell you, it's a really exciting time. We have, even though we've been around for so long, our company is growing. Pretty steady growth. We open about 5 to 7 new stores within that Home Outlet division per year. As we kind of just mentioned, acquisitions happening when the time is right. And so it is an exciting time. I started my career in healthcare and then moved into retail. So I've really found a joy and passion in the retail environment. But you see a lot of external factors and things happening, and that directly impact our brands and our business. And so navigating those challenges of what's happening externally, looking at the solutions, what we can provide as a company, and how we stand in the industry and the marketplace. And it's a fun job on, kind of figuring out how do we position that brand in the right way and make sure more people learn about us and hear about who we are. So the Home Outlet brand is relatively new. We rebranded some of our existing brands 3 years ago. So it's an ongoing challenge, an exciting one to continue growing awareness around that new brand.
Mm-hmm. So, and you've heard us talk about the importance of brand, and that's one emphasis, at least. And you are ahead of the curve compared to many, because these are not your words necessarily, but I would consider you kind of a brand expert or a brand strategist. And you've done a lot of work corporately and personally around understanding the power of brand. And obviously the question I would have for you, given the fact that you are competing in some of these spaces with some really big box names that come in and kind of, just try to dominate a market space. How are you navigating that and messaging and differentiating, just kind of behind the curtains? Curious how you've approached and how you approach that and continue to find success and growth amidst that, in that environment.
Sure. Yeah. One change that I've seen within our company that, I think is slowly happening throughout different companies across the U.S. is that you see more of an emphasis on marketing and brand awareness in general at the corporate level, at the board level of our company, at many other companies. And so I think the importance of marketing and branding is just becoming more widespread. People are understanding more, not necessarily how it works, just how vital of a role it can play. And so for us being in a mid-level market company and competing with these big brand names, it's about how we differentiate ourselves. And you have this sea of sameness, is this common term, and everybody looks the same. They're saying the same things. And so, it really puts a challenge on our team who does the things we do internally. We don't use a lot of outside partners. It's how can we use the resources we have to really stand out, because we believe and are confident that once people make it into our stores, they're going to love us. We're employee we provide just a higher level of service than what you find in other retailers in our industry. And so the biggest challenge is getting people to give us a try, to step outside of that comfort zone of going to a big box. And we do that by trying to reach them in a creative way and say things just a little bit differently.
Without getting too much, and I love that, and I think the world is hungry for those types of interactions. And I've been into the Home Goods and Olive Branch, I think, and then in Jonesboro, that store, the home outlet, sorry, and that's what you're greeted with. That's the experience. It's kind of like the going back into your neighborhood hardware store, if you will, where there's it's just a familiarity and a care. Whereas when you're in the other spaces, that it's totally hit and miss. And if you do have a good experience, you're typically that person who may have assisted you is not going to be there long. So it's every time you're kind of I find myself when if I venture into a big box experience in that space, it's like I want to know what I need to go get it before I get in there, because I know if I start asking for help, it could go either way. And so it's really powerful to know that you can go into a place not knowing exactly what you need and have the comfort and confidence that somebody's going to meet you in that and walk you through a process or get you the help that you need. And I do think that's what you guys provide.
Absolutely. I'm glad to hear you think so too.
Yeah, I do. I wish, I just need one closer to home. So in your leadership, so not only are you responsible for a lot of this brand, and we could talk a lot about that, and maybe that's a conversation you and I should have another time around just owning your brand and protecting a brand, because you guys have done that so well and messaging that brand. But you're also in a leadership role and responsibility, kind of a growing leadership role and responsibility. So what has that leadership, you've got this kind of subject matter expertise that you're continually growing in, and adding the responsibility of leading and organizing a group of people and team and advancing that internally. What's that journey been like for you?
Yeah, so I feel like I moved into leadership roles pretty quickly in my career. Prior to even being with Barton Company,
was that something you were seeking? Like, did you go into it knowing you wanted that responsibility, or did that kind of find you?
I think initially it wasn't, but I kind of happened upon the opportunity. And once I got a taste of it, I felt like that's where, that's really where my path was taking me. And I found myself even in my, volunteer organizations, community organizations I was a member of, gravitating toward these leadership positions. I can't explain why or how, but it's kind of where I always ended up, and really started to realize that that's the path I wanted to take. If I was going to have a successful career, to me, that success looked like, being a leader and being a really good leader. I wanted to do well at it. But, you don't really receive a lot of training as a leader, especially, a lot of times you're thrown into these roles. And like you said, I really was honing my skills in marketing, but not really so much in the practice of leading others. And so it was kind of you do the best you can. My philosophy has always been to try to lead the way I wanted to be led. And I felt like it served me well. But, there are challenges when you're leading individuals and balancing the needs of an organization. And, I've never really had the resources to really truly feel confident in how it's navigating those things.
What you said, you kind of gravitated or kind of fell into it. What attracted you and made you feel like you really wanted to be more engaged in a leadership capacity? Is that something you could name?
I think being on the I guess producer side of marketing, in terms of, I was doing these things but not involved in the strategy of why we were doing these things or what we were
Mm-hmm.
doing. And so I think, being on that side of it, I just would observe and notice things that we could be doing, or, was really interested in, well, why are we doing it this way? And so really,
Mm-hmm.
understanding the strategy behind what we were doing, not just checking off the tasks that needed to be done. And so
Mm-hmm.
I think that's probably what drew me to those leadership roles, is just wanting to be involved at the strategy level and helping,
Mm-hmm.
knowing that I had a part in moving the needle in some way.
Yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense, and not everybody doesn't want that, but the wanting to have an influence over, and your curiosity about, why are we doing things the way that we're doing them, and wanting, having an interest and wanting to be a part of that, I think is probably a good trait of what may draw somebody into desiring or aspiring to have more influence, or to be participatory, or make a contribution to it. That's certainly a great motivator for taking on a little more responsibility. So, and you mentioned the training aspect of that. And this is, especially in a lot of the privately held mid-market spaces that we work, things are moving so quickly. So many people moving, wearing so many hats. And it does seem that people naturally kind of gravitate toward these positions, and have a willingness to step into a role that you don't have necessarily formal training for. And so there's a lag, they're just, and this is at every level within, from CEOs and chairman of the boards to the vice presidents and management level. We see this across as a challenge across the map, especially with companies that are growing quickly, or, aggressive, I would say, about their growth and development. So, what was that? How did you rectify that?
I think the first leadership position I was in, I had my leader was really, at the time, he was very intelligent. He really knew what he was doing. But I didn't get a lot of guidance from him on, the whole philosophy of wanting more for them than from them. He didn't really seem interested in investing in me as a leader and helping me grow. And so I really took things into my own hands and had just this yearning to learn more. And so I did a lot personally. I read a lot of books, and tried to make my own way. And so as I transitioned over to EC Barton Company, I saw really a big shift in that approach, and began working with leaders who wanted the same for me. They wanted to help me develop and grow into those roles. And so started finding access to more resources, and really working with other leaders who I, felt set a good example, and things that I could watch and mirror in the way that I wanted to lead my team as well.
Man, and such a good lesson for us all to, a couple of things. One, when your organization and your leadership wants to invest in you, how that feels to be on the receiving end of someone in authority, in a position to be willing to direct resources, time, and energy to your development. I mean, that's a major shot in the arm and a vote of confidence, and something that people are looking for and hungry for. Probably one of the top 5 reasons why people end up leaving their positions or companies is because they don't feel like that desire is present. And EC Barton has a rich history of that too, it seems.
Yeah, they really do. And like you said, it was a huge shot of confidence. And it kind of connects the dots for you too. You're looking at how much it means to you, and then think, okay, I have these 6 people that I'm responsible for leading. So what can I do in the same way that would be meaningful for them?
Yeah, and it reveals too, I think with these in this really any context of a business or department, as you're developing systems and processes and procedures, the one thing that seems to be lacking is a framework that for leadership that is transferable. So every leader is going to lead different from a different trait profile with a different value structure, but there is a principled framework that can be applied. And so having something that I can pass on, or a framework that I can teach through or guide through or develop people with, becomes a vital part of leadership as well. But it's hard to create on the fly. Well, so and I guess that's where we come in with the next level, is that with the next level program is EC Barton has participated with us. And so I don't remember if that's something you asked about, or if they said, hey, you're doing this. How did that go down?
I think it was kind of a little bit of combination of the both. That
Okay,
the president of our company, my supervisor, I think he knew that I was willing and interested in developing myself. We had, like you said, a couple others that had been through the program. And so as the opportunity opened up, I think it was just a natural fit, because, very grateful that he saw the potential in me and wanted to put me through that. And I was a willing and eager participant. So it worked out well from both sides.
Good. Well, tell us a little bit about your overall experience now that you been out of the program for about a month or so, and had a 12-month run with us. What were some of your highlights and takeaways?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this, and I think ultimately, if you have to sum it up, what I would tell people is that it's just like anything else. You do get out of it what you put in. So, it's a program that's different than any other that I've seen before. I've been through a local leadership program that was more about being a leader in your community, or you expect that you're going to learn some tangible business tips and get some tools that you might need in the business world. And those things are part of it. But I think what's unique about this program is the combination of kind of like the journey in and journey out, looking at the introspection of who you are, really identifying those things within yourself, the relational aspect of leadership that was just really interesting to me. You don't hear a lot of leadership practices where it's looking at those softer qualities and things that people bring to the table, but it's so much a part of who we are. It's not, I keep referring to things to myself as like my personal self, my professional self, but at the end of the day, it's just me, it's myself. And so understanding that about myself and the people that I lead and the people I work with. And so it's just been a really interesting perspective that, I hadn't thought of before, and really connected a lot of dots for me, looking at the business side and the relational side as a kind of cohesive way of leading and being part of an organization.
Yeah, you referenced the framework a little bit, the journey in, the journey out. For those not familiar, those are the basically what we're trying to do is bring a holistic approach to this position and role of a leader that includes the journey out, which is your tools and techniques. These are principles and platforms that are absolutely essential to manage and maintain and sustain and even scale a profitable business. And then the journey in, which is the humanity of leadership, the emotional intelligence and relational integrity, that are you don't have robots executing these tools, techniques, platforms, and running these systems. So we're all a bunch of humans trying to flesh this out in a meaningful way. So as you talk about those two sides of this framework, what were maybe some of the aha moments for you? You mentioned the perspective that you gained from the journey in, but what would have been your perspective before, and maybe how is it different now?
Yeah, I think my idea of a leader prior to this program, if I had to explain or, really put a definition around a leader, would be, more related to the business side of it, or, specific characteristics or traits that, in my mind before, like, oh, a leader has to have these things or has to be this way, or they're not a true
What would
leader.
those have been? Yeah. Give me some ideas.
Yeah, I think, obviously being very, business savvy and really understanding that side of it, but being probably, aggressive and, maybe even outspoken, willing to, really jump in and, all these things, that someone who can, lead a team and motivate them and be influential and, all these things that you think of as leaders. And, there are certain traits that not everyone has that makeup. And so if you don't, then you're, it's, am I cut out to be a leader because I don't look X, Y, and Z that I think makes up a good leader?
Yeah. No, that's great. Yeah, well said. It's this persona or caricature of what we think a leader is supposed to be, and a lot of us wrestle with that in our heads, and then we use that caricature to judge ourselves against it. So how did that change? So that was your idea of a leader, which means I'm not one, because I'm not those things. So then what?
I think in the beginning, learning more about myself and seeing, okay, where are my high and low areas of strength, and looking at the 360 and what is the perception of how I'm leading and who I am, among my peers and the people that I lead, and tying that all together. And I started to come to terms with, okay, there's not a mold for what a leader looks like. There are certain things that may help you become more successful in that leadership position. But ultimately, leaders look many different ways. And so I think at the end of this, it was me realizing it and coming to terms with, it's okay that I may not be strong in these areas, but, I have these other areas where I really do have, strengths and that play well to the position I'm in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well said. The idea that there are, and we've kind of categorized it as 6 different leadership styles, all of which can be effective. And so everybody has to find their particular voice, and the framework doesn't change. There's a framework or principles that are essential to leading well, but your style, your personality, the high energy traits that you described of where I'm most likely to gravitate toward performing and behaving doesn't make me less of a leader. It just means the way I'm going to lead may look different than the way other people have led. And so because I love that was a takeaway for you, because you embody the intangibles to be able to influence and guide and develop and encourage and support people. It's just going to look different than the way I would do it or the way anybody else in your company would do it. But that doesn't make it less meaningful or effective. So I always use the illustration of like finding your leadership jacket. Like, you're not going to wear my jacket. I'm not going to wear your jacket. We're going to find the jacket that fits me so that you can show up as yourself. So it's such a huge deal, because I think that's the whole imposter syndrome conversation that a lot of people carry with them, is the false narrative. Number one, we're wrong about what we imagine other people are, and then we're also wrong about how we imagine ourselves. So bringing some objectivity to that conversation is hopefully clarifying.
Yes, and I didn't realize how common it was to have that perception, but what a relief it is to kind of see, okay, I don't have to fit into that mold, and I can really focus on the things that matter instead of being so focused on what I think I am or am not. So,
yeah, and that's the power of being in a group too, of other leaders who you would have looked at from afar and assumed they're completely confident in their own leadership style and felt great about how they did it. And you realize, oh, we all feel
we're all in it together.
Yeah, we're all feeling a degree of inadequacy and comparing ourselves inaccurately to other people. Really good. Anything else you want to add to that regarding your experience or anything that stood out to you?
I think just one of the biggest takeaways that I keep, I can hear you and Ken saying in it is just the want more for your people than from them. That's one of the most impactful things that hit me during this program, and something I feel like I'm guilty of in the past. Just how can we get more out of people and push them to perform at a higher level? And it's taking a step back and really seeing them for who they are, wanting the best for them, and helping them to realize that potential.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's that paradigm shift of, instead of dragging people along because of what we're needing them to do and be, it's encouraging them and supporting them because of what we hope we can do together and what we know they're capable of becoming. It's just a totally different energy from which to lead, and the people we're leading feel the difference. Not that I'm always operating out of one. I'd have to be self-aware of when I'm wrestling or drifting back into an old way of being, of wanting more from than for, because that's an everyday kind of recognition. But yeah, that's huge. And I love that you mentioned this. We talk about seeing and knowing yourself so that you can connect and relate to others, and the assessments that we utilize to help people kind of introduce people to themselves. I'm assuming that was a part of that self-awareness you talked about, or that was.
It was.
Did that add some insight?
Yes, Barton Company, we do have, an assessment when it comes to, hiring and growing our leaders. But this was a much more in-depth look than I had seen before, and really helped me understand what everything meant at just, a deeper level. And so that was, played a big part in that aspect of learning more about myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, learning to cooperate. It's, so often the self-narrative is we're judging ourselves and comparing ourselves, not really with a voice of kindness. And so we're actually working against how we're wired versus cooperating with how we're wired and actually enjoying and delighting in how we're wired, and recognizing that people that aren't wired the same way, that creates even more opportunity for relationship, collaboration, vision, mission, etc. So really good. Well, I have really enjoyed the time with you over the course of the program and the opportunity to support you on what's already been a successful journey and what I know will continue to be a successful journey as you keep growing, because I know you're hungry to learn, both in your own self-development and in your professional development of your craft. So the science behind it. So excited to see where all that goes, and really grateful for your trust in us to partner with you on that journey. So thanks for being such a meaningful part of Next Level 4.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys taking the time to create a meaningful program to care for us as individuals, and it's been a great experience.
Well, last question, and I'll let you go and get back to business. But for anybody who is in a leadership role and may or may not be thinking about participation in Next Level, what might your encouragement to them be?
I would say, definitely go for it. I recommend the program, and not going to say it's easy. I think there's some challenging aspects of the program, but I think it's because you're, putting in some hard, meaningful work, uncovering things about yourself that, it's not always a comfortable process. But I think at the end of the day, there are a lot of benefits that come out of it. And I feel like a more well-rounded person, a more well-rounded leader, and have a lot of things that I can take away and continue to work on for many years to come. It's not, not just okay, we're done with the program, I'm better and I'm done. I think it's, like you say, it's a journey, it's a path, and I feel like I'm just, further along in the path now and have a lot of support and resources to continue in the way that I would like to go.
Yeah. And I love that you said that. Our hope is that we wrap these resources around you and give you these things that you can take with you well beyond the program. So whether that's books or resources or studies or assessments or tools that you're able to apply. So, well, thanks a bunch for all your time, Danielle, and look forward to seeing you next time I'm passing through Jonesboro, hopefully on the way to go fishing somewhere.
Yeah, come see us.
All right. Tell everybody hello.
I will. Thank you so
All
much.
right. Take care.